The Arctic wind howled like a wounded animal, slicing through the morning fog that hung low over an endless sea of white. On the deck of a small research vessel, a group of scientists stared across the frozen horizon. The sun was barely a pale circle behind the mist, and the temperature was low enough to freeze breath in mid-air. Then one of them, Dr. Hannah Lowell, saw it. Something was moving in the water. At first, it looked like a drifting chunk of ice, but it wasn't. It was alive. Slowly, a massive white figure broke through the fog. A polar bear. Her fur was soaked, her movements slow and heavy. The team went silent as the creature lifted her head and looked directly toward them. Her eyes didn't carry rage or hunger. They carried something else. Desperation, a silent plea for help. The crew rushed to the edge of the ship, disbelief written across their faces. Polar bears were built for this environment, but not for this long. Even the strongest couldn't survive in freezing water for more than a few hours, yet this one had clearly been swimming for days. Later, they would check their satellite data and confirm it. 3 full days without rest. Every breath she took came with effort. Every stroke looked slower than the last. "She's going to drown," someone whispered. But the bear kept swimming towards them, eyes never leaving the humans, as if trying to communicate something no one could understand. The captain hesitated. "We can't get close," he said. "If she climbs aboard, it's over." Polar bears were apex predators, each one capable of tearing through steel drums with ease. But Hannah stepped forward. "Look at her," she said softly. "That's not a hunter. That's a mother." She ordered a drone to be launched. It lifted into the cold air, buzzing over the ice fields where the bear had come from. Minutes later, the camera revealed something that silenced the deck. A smaller shape, clinging to a thin fragment of ice. A cub, barely alive. Crying, alone, trapped on a piece of ice that was breaking apart. The mother hadn't been swimming toward them to attack. She had been guiding them to her baby. The captain stared at the drone feed, then at Hannah. "We'll follow," he said. The engines roared as the ship pushed forward, cutting through the melting ice. The bear turned around, swimming ahead of them now, glancing back as if to make sure they were following. The ice around them cracked and shifted with deep, echoing groans. The Arctic was melting faster than ever before, and what once had been solid ground for polar bears was now nothing but drifting fragments. In the distance, the cub's iceberg split again. They could hear its cries over the wind. Hannah knew they had only minutes. When they were close enough, Hannah called for a small rescue boat. She climbed in with Mark, the ship's mechanic, and Lisa, a camera operator who'd documented animal rescues across the world. They took a Senstumsosamat, tranquilizer gun, ropes, and thermal blankets. As the small boat moved through the freezing water, the mother bear swam beside them, her giant head breaking the surface again and again. Her breathing was shallow, but she never stopped.
The drone is picking up something
When they reached the
massive
cub,
under
the ice was already thin as glass.
What in the world?
Hannah moved carefully, crawling toward the terrified baby. The mother stood nearby on a thicker section, growling softly, not in warning, but in worry. Her eyes followed every move Hannah made. It was like she understood what they were trying to do. Just as Hannah reached the cub, a deafening crack echoed through the air. The ice gave way beneath Mark, sending him plunging into the freezing water. "Mark!" Hannah screamed, throwing herself forward. The current was too strong. He tried to grab the rope, but his fingers were already stiff from the cold. Lisa tried to help, but the ice kept breaking around her. Then something no one could believe happened. The polar bear dove. A massive splash, followed by silence. The drone caught it all. The bear swimming beneath the surface, grabbing the rope with her jaws, pulling with all her strength. Mark's body rose from the water. Hannah and Lisa pulled him up together as the bear pushed from below. When they dragged him onto the ice, gasping and shivering, the bear surfaced beside them, breathing heavily. For a moment, no one moved. The camera zoomed in. The bear looked straight at Mark, then at Hannah, before turning toward her cub. She had just saved a human life. They would later say it was the most extraordinary moment ever recorded in the Arctic. A wild predator showing an act of trust and empathy. The cub crawled to its mother, pressing its tiny nose against her fur. The bear let out a low sound, almost like a sigh, and nuzzled the baby close. Then she turned to Hannah one last time. There was no aggression, only calm recognition. The kind of look that said, "You helped me. I helped you. Now let us go." The weather shifted without warning. A blizzard swept across the open sea, turning the world into a wall of white. Visibility dropped to near zero. Hannah and the crew dragged Mark back to the boat and started their return to the ship. Snow pelted their faces, the cold cutting through their clothes. As they climbed aboard the vessel, the mother and cub were barely visible through the storm. The bear turned once more, looking back through the snow before disappearing into the white horizon with her cub walking beside her. 3 days later, the team returned to base. The footage went viral within hours. "Polar bear leads humans to save her cub," the headlines read. Millions watched the moment the bear dove into the water to save Mark. Donations poured into Arctic research foundations. Scientists from across the world reached out to Hannah, calling it one of the most remarkable demonstrations of cross-species empathy ever documented.
Captain,
But for
the
Hannah,
drone is picking up something
it wasn't
massive
about
under the
fame
ice.
or research. It was about a feeling she couldn't quite explain. The look in that bear's eyes when their water worlds met in that frozen silence. Months passed. The Arctic summer arrived early that year. Most of the ice where the rescue had taken place was gone. Hannah returned, this time alone, with a smaller crew and a single mission: to find signs of the mother and her cub. She searched for days, scanning the horizon, her radio crackling with static. Nothing. Only silence and the sound of melting ice. On the 5th day, she found something. Washed ashore near the base of an old glacier. It was a small metal tag, faded and scratched, marked with a number she recognized. The cub's tag. She picked it up, brushing off the snow. A tear rolled down her cheek. "You made it," she whispered. Somewhere out there, beyond the melting sea, the cub had survived. As she stood there, the wind shifted again. The Arctic sky opened just enough for a sliver of sunlight to break through the clouds. Hannah looked toward the horizon, an endless white landscape stretching into infinity. For a moment, she imagined the two bears walking together under that same light, safe and free. Her voice trembled as she spoke to the camera one last time. "In the coldest places on Earth," she said, "warmth doesn't come from fire. It comes from courage." The screen fades to white, a heartbeat of silence. Then one final drone shot, taken weeks later by another expedition, shows two small figures walking side by side on a distant ice field. A mother and her cub heading north, toward the untouched ice that still remains.